right, we'll just kind of be moving and shifting around in the room, so that won't be a problem, and we'll look forward to sharing with you. First of all, let me just mention to you how I got involved in the archives department. Brother Jimmy alluded to the book timing, but what I wanted to share with you is this. In 1997, during the time that Brother Doug Amos was the conference superintendent, he was with me on a dedication day, and after the service that day, his wife Frances had been serving as the archives director for the conference. So he asked me if I would serve in that area, and I told him that I'd certainly welcome the opportunity. And so since 1997 until today, which is a little over 21 years, it's been my privilege to be a part of the archives and to serve with the men and women who have faithfully served with us, and we appreciate them so much. I'm just going to briefly run through a few things downstairs and upstairs to let you know how it came into progress and how it happened. You'll notice on the wall here we have the pictures of our first superintendent right up until not our present bishop. His picture is in the process of being ready and put up on the wall. But we start off over here with Brother J.J. Carter. He was our first superintendent, then Brother Pet McKenzie, and then O.M. Hilburn, and then S.W. Kennedy. Of course, Brother Tom Evans served as superintendent of this conference longer than any superintendent. He served for a period of right at 30 years. And then Brother Paget Robinson, he followed Brother Evans. After him, Brother David McKenzie came. Brother McKenzie served as superintendent of this conference for 16 years. And during the time that he served as superintendent, Miss Rita Wrenn served as his secretary a large portion of that time, and we appreciate her. Then Brother Simmons followed Brother McKenzie. Also, Brother Duncan followed Brother Jesse, Brother Mark Potter, Brother Doug Amos, Brother Terry Fowler, Brother Jimmy McKenzie, and of course at our present time in his third term, I believe it is, Brother Greg Amos, and we appreciate him. Over in the conference building a few years ago, we used to have a room that was designated as the prayer room. And every morning they would have devotion and have prayer. And this podium was in the prayer room. And they would join together and pray and ask the Lord's blessings on them during that particular time and that particular day. Now, what we tried to do down here, each department of the conference, we've tried to do something to remember that department and have some history relating to that. Right here on this table is our missions table. And of course, we have some of the mission mugs, the link magazines, and things that relate to world missions. On this table here, we've dealt with some things as it relates to missions and evangelism. And some of this material goes back a good little bit, and some of it is very current. You may remember back here a long time ago in the evangelism department, they put together a little book called Harvest Time, the Souls Winners Manual, and evangelism directors, after evangelism directors, have continued to use this. And we have some of the little books right here. So you might want to just browse through this. I did want you to notice here, this table cover here. This was handmade by one of our missionaries. Many of you may remember Miss Leona Colsey, who served in Hong Kong, I believe it was, for a long time. She did this, and one of the ladies that she gave this to donated it to the archives department. And so we are doing our very best to preserve preserve that and to keep that in real good shape. You'll notice from place to place, you'll see these stands with pictures on them. These are pictures of different ministers from the past. You may remember some. I'm going to call a couple names here. Brother and Mr. and Miss M.L. Nesbitt, Mr. and Miss Harry Swales, and his wife Marie. And there are a number of different stands like this in this room. In fact, there are 4, and there are pictures on both sides, so you might want to just take the time and come and look, and most of the names are right there on those pictures. Now we're moving over here into an area. This is our Royal Rangers, which is under the umbrella of Christian education. Now we call it, of course, Discipleship Ministries. And these are some of the older training manuals from years back. Some of you that are standing in the room with us right now, Brother Jerry Catledge and Brother Lynn Bryant, I know Brother Bill Loving, Brother Mike Coble, and maybe some others, but I know you guys went through some of this training as it was in what we call the early days, when we thought it was really tough and rugged. And of course, here we have a map, one of the first maps that was put together when we acquired the property at Camp Robinson. And if you've never been to Camp Robinson, you need to take the time to go down and visit and see how the Lord has blessed us there. There are a number of picture albums on this table and a number of individual pictures that you can certainly just pick up if you like and look at it. One of the famous things, I call it famous, in Rangers events that we used to do, you would receive different types of patches for it. And so we have a number of those patches here on the table today. This particular table over here also, we have some other Royal Ranger artifacts on here. Notice on the wall, if you will, we have some pictures from the past. This picture here, many of you will recognize Bishop J. Floyd Williams and his wife Jean, and our mind goes back in their ministry, and we thank the Lord for what they have done. Some of these other pictures, this picture here was pictures of evangelists of the modern holiness movement, and their names are under their pictures. You might just like to look at that. A lot of those people that are here are listed in Vincent Sinon's history books, and it has some tremendous history, and some of those books are upstairs, and I'll show them to you in just a little bit. Here again is another one of the stands with different pictures, and you just kind of browse through those if you like. Here's a picture of the General Conference 1965. That was held in Greensboro, North Carolina, and that's a picture of the entire group. Here is a picture of the General Conference of the Pentecostal Holiness Church that was held in Roanoke, Virginia on March the 10th, 1921. That goes back a long time ago, and there are a number of those people that are there, here and up here. Some of these people, if you have availed yourself to the history and the pictures that Dr. Sinon has in a lot of his books, you can walk up here and immediately you'll recognize some of the men. Of course, right here is Bishop J.H. King, and then, of course, some of the others, we may not be exactly sure who they are. Here's another older picture of one of the general conferences, and this was at one of the headquarters building where it had the sign there, Jesus Saves. This entire table here has a number of different pictures, some from the past, some of them are current pictures, but they're all interesting. Here we had someone who put together one of the older church buildings, and it has inside, you might want to take the time to look at it. It has the Bible stand, has the communion table, it has the pews, it has flowers, and of course this is the top that sits on here, but we always take it off where you can look at it. And just notice, even in their duplication, if you will, notice they even have the doors. Brother McKenzie, come in just a moment, if you don't mind, and just share with us. I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think you were responsible for getting this here.
Brother Willie Hartfield, one of our retired and deceased ministers, he had a gentleman that worked with him. He was in the bivocational ministry. He was a preacher and a pastor and all of that for a number of years, but he also was in a contracting business, and he was a builder. But he didn't build it, but he knew someone that did. I think the gentleman was in prison. You know, they do a lot of this kind of work. But what was his mind on? The church. Somebody put a seed into his heart and into his mind. Yeah. That's right. When you're working with those little children, don't forget your children. Don't just work with archive groups. You got to build another church and bring it up. Right. Because we're soon going to heaven. Yes. Right. You want me to preach? You didn't let me finish upstairs. But anyhow, that is some beautiful work. But we kept it in my office until, they kind of did away with me, and then Brother Larry got a hold of this and brought it over here. In other words, Larry took over, and he does what he wants to do when I'm out of the way.
Brother McKenzie is a tremendous help to us. Brother Terry Fowler was. Brother Doug Amos was. Brother McKenzie, and certainly Bishop Amos Brother Greg has been a tremendous asset to us. Notice in the back here we have some large pictures of some of the former WM presidents who have served in this conference. Miss Debbie Brown, Miss Margaret Harmon, Miss Joyce Blease, Miss Rita Wrenn, who is in the room with us today, and we have a deep admiration and respect for her. Also, Miss Tammy Lambert served in that position. Also, Miss Tamara Amos serves currently as the MWF president, Ministers' Wives Fellowship president of this conference. I want you to notice this table. If you notice, it's a long wooden table. This came out of the courthouse in Richland County in Columbia, South Carolina. For a long time, this particular table was in the dining hall. And this was what was called at that time the Royal Elders Table, where they sat around the table and ate lunch. And then we moved it from there to the foyer. The first archives display room was the foyer in the tabernacle, and the pictures of the superintendents were there. And then after we came down and did all of this work here, we decided to move that over here. So this is another archive item that we're very happy about and very proud of. Brother David McKenzie and Brother Bernard Knight was instrumental in bringing this table from Columbia down to Lake City. We were talking about records. We were talking about how important it is we keep records. Many of you will remember, if you're old enough, you'll remember back yonder years ago, they used to keep records in ledgers such as this. Now a lot of it's on computer, and we all are aware of that. But it's interesting to read some of this and to go back. Here's a minute, and I'm just going to share this with you real quick. February the 19th, 1933. At the usual prayer service and it names the name of the church, the doors of the Pentecostal Holiness Church were opened by the pastor and by the following members, and they were received into the church by motion, and it lists the people who came into the church at that particular time. Brother McKenzie was talking about in the devotion about keeping minutes of your meetings and all of that, and how important it is. And here we have minutes that go back, and this was from the Scranton Pentecostal Pentecostal Holiness Church back to 1993. Right under this picture here, we have, and this, by the way, is a 1926 picture of May the 7th of the General Conference that was held at Franklin Springs. You'll see on here, you'll see Bishop King, you'll see Dr. Paul F. Beecham, and just a number of other great men of our church. One of the most outstanding, if not the most outstanding, lady ministers, evangelists in this conference was Reverend Miss Lula Mae Putnam. Many of you in this room will remember her, and she was a great servant of God. She was a wrestler one time, and someone used to say, if anybody could scare the devil out of you in her preaching, she could do it. And she was a great woman. A great woman of the Lord. We have a lot of other churches that have donated their minutes to us. This comes to us from the Ellerby Church in Ellerby, North Carolina. This one here, this journal here, it talks about how much money they gave, and it has it all listed in here. And it's just very interesting material that you might just like to browse through and look. Dr. Joe Campbell, Dr. Pappy Campbell, as many of us knew him. Pappy served in a lot of different areas. He was not a member of this conference. He was a member of the Florida Conference, but yet he did a lot as it related to raising money for missions and things of that nature. Brother Robinson, many of you will remember the last sermon that was recorded by him. I'm nearer home than I was yesterday on the 33 1/3 long play album. We have this on CD, that we have that available. This entire sermon that he preached, we transcribed that sermon and we have it in print, and we have copies of that you may like to get at some point. When some of the ministers pass away, sometimes their spouse or a member of their family will give us their license and ordination certificate. Some of them even go back and they will give us their mission workers license. This particular one here was in October the 14th. He received his mission workers license October the 14th, 1915, and he received them at the Rehoboth Pentecostal Holiness Church, and it was a lady, Mrs. M.A. Kuhn, and they were signed by Brother P.Z. McKenzie and Brother O.M. Hilburn. That was the superintendent and the assistant superintendent at that time. This one here was Brother Lloyd Weed's certificate of ordination, September 19, looks like 49, signed by Dr. J. Sinan, Reverend T.O. Evans, superintendent, and the secretary of the conference at that time was Brother J.O. Wall, who served as a pastor at the Lake City Church for a number of times. Pappy Campbell, bless his heart. This came out of some of Pappy's personal possessions, and in here it has a razor, has a toothbrush, and some toothpaste. And that was donated to us. And then, of course, here's some glasses that belonged to somebody, whoever, I'm not sure all of that was. On this table here, we have some things and Miss Rita Wrenn was very instrumental in getting all of this for us. And these WM books go back to 1944. And they come up to the present day. And if you have the time, you may not have it today, but later, we'd love for you to come and browse through this, because there's some valuable pictures and information as it relates to the WM work. Also, I do want to call your attention to these plaques on the wall. Years ago, they started these, and when ministers would die, they would put their years of service on the plaques, and also whenever churches would come into the conference, they would put that on the plaque also. And so these were moved from the auditorium over the H.P. Robinson Auditorium over here, and we just wanted to share that with you also. You may not be able to see it, but when you move around, you will see it in just a moment.
Brother Larry, let's give Pat Catledge a lot of credit.
Yeah, Pat, and she's in the room with us too. There she is. Give Pat a big hand too. Pat and Rita. The 6 Miles Pentecostal Holiness Church was founded in July the 8th, 1962 by Reverend and Mrs. Ozzie Williams. And it has the officials who were on that board, and the church was dedicated at a later date with Brother Williams, still the pastor. When they did some transitioning down that way, his son called me and said, I'd like to give you, because his daddy and I were real close, he said, I'd like to give you the cornerstone from the church. I said, well, I appreciate you wanting to give it to me, but I'd love for you to give it to the conference, to the archives department. And so we have that here. Many of you will remember, some of you won't, but the old dormitories that we had years ago, and some of us remember that well. Well, years ago, the room you're standing in now used to be the dining hall where people would come in and eat. And this particular table right here was one of those dining hall tables that people sat around, and that goes back into the 1930s and the 1940s, and we were able to salvage one of those and have them here. This particular poster here deals with Miss Emma Britton Law and has pictures of her and her husband. We have some things on this table as it relates to chaplains who have served in the Pentecostal Holiness Church from this conference, Brother Charles Grooms, Brother Bob Fogner, and then this my brother right here, let me get his name straight, Brother David Sessions, and in fact, well, a number of men have served as chaplains from our church. Years ago, in the old dormitory where we had the rooms that were numbered. This is the room numbers and the persons who stayed in that room. And it was downstairs and upstairs. It's the adjacent building right here. And just looking over these, I'll just say thank the Lord. A number of these are still living. Others have gone on to be with the Lord. Recently, January the 31st, 2011, they had the Centennial Covenant, which this decree was made in 2011 when they were celebrating a historical event. And what we did, the members of the conference board at that time, in that particular time, we had the large number of conference board officials. I believe it was 12, if I'm not mistaken. No, let's see, 1, 2, 15, right? And all of those names are on here, and there's some in the room that are here right now whose names are on there. Mine, of course, Brother Mike Coble, and I think some Brother Greg here, he was with us a little earlier. These are some pictures of some of the conference boards, past and present. This was our 100 years history book. This was our 100 years pin, our 100 years medallion, and this particular little Bible stand here This was presented to the Bamberg Pentecostal Holiness Church Fellowship Hall. It was in the Fellowship Hall, and it was given by Brother Charles Riedling's father, Mr. G.H. Riedling, in August of the 24th, 1975. Whenever we were raising money to build this building, we had afghans that we sold. Miss Rita was very instrumental in helping us get this developed and get it to the place that put it together for us. This particular Afghan, I believe we sold these, Rita, for what, $75? And so we wanted one of them framed, and we wanted to put it in this building. And so you'll see it with some of the first major tabernacles and dormitories, and then the present dormitory, the jail wall building, which is the office building, the dining hall, one of the old dormitories, and it has the theme of our 100 years celebration, remembering the past, celebrating the present, and anticipating the future. So this pretty well covers downstairs. We keep the archives room open during the camp meeting Monday through Thursday, and it's open from 1:30 until 4:30. And during the camp meeting that's coming up in 2019, you're certainly welcome to come and to visit and go through any of the materials that are here. Now we're fixing to go back upstairs. What we're doing, we're fixing to leave from the archives area here. When we go upstairs, we actually go into what we call the David A. McKenzie Library. And if you'll notice, when you walk in this building, it has the dedication plaque on the outside, and we dedicated this building in 2010. Upstairs, we have books that have been dedicated by different ministers and their families, and briefly, I'm going to call some of those names. Yes.
We know the blessings of God. When we walked in, we were trying to figure out where we're going to have the archives building, different things. But could you tell them what was in here when we walked in, just to try to describe a little bit?
Well, if you had walked in and saw what we walked in, you would have thought it would have taken $100,000 or more to renovate this building downstairs. We had the upstairs, but there was no stairway. So what we did whenever we began to renovate, we made a stairway going upstairs, and but you would have been surprised. In other words, you walked in just on one level. When you came in here before, you would step in that door, and it was about that deep. Where you had to step down to come in, all kind of file cabinets and trash and paper and stacked up almost to the ceiling. But it's just wonderful to see what the Lord has done and how God has blessed us. I will tell you this. In the Pentecostal Holiness Church as a whole, we have the greatest, at this point, I say the greatest, we have the best display as it relates to archives in a building itself. Yeah. And that's across the denomination, and we've had a number of people to allude to that. And we just thank the Lord that the church has responded, and many of your churches responded and helped us in building this building. It cost us a little, right around $60,000 to do what we did, but whenever we dedicated it, it was all paid for and everything was covered, and we thank the Lord for that. Amen. We are in what we call the David A. McKenzie Library, and we have books in both rooms. What I'd like for you to notice, first of all, we have here some pictures of Brother McKenzie and his wife, some of the royal elder banquets from the past. We have a table here that was donated to us by Brother Levon Young and his wife Sarah, and we have on this table a number of Bibles that ministers' families presented to us after their loved ones, their husband or their father, father left this life and went on to that better country, that better world. And we have Bibles here. One of Sister Putnam's Bible is here on the table. You'll notice over on my left, right in front of you, we have the David A. McKenzie Library plaque. We have pictures of Brother David and also Miss Earlene. On this table here, we have some books and artifacts from the past. You can just browse through that. There is a couple of the brochures from our 100 years history, 1910 to 2010. We have a number of ministers who have written books in the Pentecostal Holiness Church. Right over here where these folks are standing, these books here were written by Pentecostal Holiness writers, and we have almost run out of space, and we're going to make a little adjustment in the near future to make those books more accessible. I'm just going to stand here and just kind of point things out very quickly. Over on this table over here on the wall, we have some of the older magazines, the Reach magazine, a youth magazine, the Helping Hands, the Advocates. We have conference minutes over here that go way back. We have some of the old IPHC manuals. We have some of the general conference minutes. You'll see the bookshelves. Some of these books were donated in this room by the David A. McKenzie family. Some of them are donated by Brother Willard Neese's family. Brother Jimmy McKenzie has some books that he donated in that's listed on these shelves right over here. And I want to be sure that I haven't left out anyone's name that I wanted to call. Now we're going to move, if we can, quickly. You can come back to the table, and I'm just going to mention a couple of things in the room in here, and we'll go to our next presenter. All right, in this room here, I just want you to notice, Brother McKenzie alluded to it a while ago. We have histories from a number of our ministers. We have histories from some of our churches. And what we're asking you to do, and it's going to be addressed in just a little bit by Brother Mike, I believe, yeah, Brother Mike Coble. We're going to ask you to help us in ministerial histories that are not here to try and kind of expedite that. And if yours is not here, we'd like for you to update yours, and we'll put, you send it to us. You send it to us, we'll take care of it, put it in a notebook, and get all of that ready for you, as well as church histories. The books right here, down these two shelves here, were donated to us recently by the Robert Ward family. All of these books here and these books right here were donated to us by the George Cashwell family after his homegoing. These particular books right here on this particular shelf here were donated to us by Mac Alexander's family, H.W. Brown's family, Brother Paul Bird's family, Brother McKenzie, as I said, gave some books, Brother Mike Coble, Brother Bill Loving, and myself. We have donated some books along with some others that are over here. Were donated by the W.H. Turner family, also by the Robert Walling family, J.B. Cox's family, Brother Charles Bradshaw's family, as well as books by Brother Robert Stewart's family, and also Brother Ronnie Street's family. And then again, we have some other pictures that I'd like for you to look at. I want you to notice kind of behind here, we have a DVD player, a CD player, a television that was donated to us by Brother Parrish down at in the Myrtle Beach area. Also, we have DVDs from the past, CDs from the past, and you know, during the camp meeting, you're welcome to come and look at these and then sit and enjoy them. And then the final thing I want to mention to you, over on this shelf right here, when we have the Royal Elders Christmas banquet, we have pictures from the most recent one right on back, and some of them in 1999, 1998, in those areas. We have some books in here history books, old advocate books, books that we have made copies of that are no longer in print. And then we have camp meeting pictures that Brother Bill Loving has taken for us, pictures from camp meeting, pictures from the conferences, a lot of Royal Ranger books here with pictures in them from the past, and Go Rally pictures and things of that nature, challenge magazines, and we have some in there and also some over here. So we just have a lot. We have a lot. And it's all historical. People say, well, I have some things, I don't know if you'd like to have them or not, and I always say, give them to us, we'll make that decision. And but we will take anything that anybody gives us and we'll put it somewhere and we'll put it to some use. If we have duplicate copies and different ones come in at different times and would like to have those duplicate copies, we'll certainly share them with you. So that kind of concludes our tour.